are these people?
U.S. House adopts a budget plan to spearhead the social counterrevolution. This was written by Patrick Martin from World Socialist website, a trot. So this is coming from the trots, but they call out the fascism for what it is here. And what they're doing is they're looking at this new proposed House budget. Now, this is not necessarily what's going to finalize pass, but it tells you what the intent and what the goal of the Republican Party is. And if they had their druthers to pass it right now, what would they do? But they can't, and they're going to have to go through some type of reconciliation process. But it's very important to understand that the U.S. House of Representatives on Tuesday night took the first step in the Trump administration's plans for devastating cuts in social spending, particularly on health care, adopting an initial budget plan by a 217 to 215 vote. The measure begins the so-called reconciliation process, in which Congress passes a single annual budget and tax bill that cannot be filibustered in the Senate. With only a 3-vote majority in the House and a 6-vote majority, or 3-senator majority in the Senate, reconciliation is the preferred mechanism for the Trump White House to enact its core program unilaterally without negotiating with Democrats. Because it can be passed by the majority of Republicans in both houses, Democrats are effectively sitting on the sidelines. They can't filibuster this. The final bill is expected to incorporate far more than just budgetary items, providing a vehicle for major changes in policies ranging from immigration to the environment. The House bill did not include such provisions, which will be worked out in future talks with Senate Republicans and the White House. But the budgetary provisions alone demonstrate the colossal social counter-revolution that the second Trump administration is seeking to carry out. These are alarming terms because they should be. The bill provides the initial framework for the House committees that will actually draft the provisions of the reconciliation legislation. That's a lot of boring language. This includes increased spending of up to $300 billion for the military and immigration and border enforcement, and up to $2 trillion in spending cuts for all other government functions, primarily healthcare, education, food stamps, transportation, and the environment. The legislation would provide up to $4.5 trillion in tax cuts over 10 years, a figure already rejected by some Senate Republicans because it falls short of the full 10-year cost of extending the tax cuts for the wealthy that was enacted in 2017 during Trump's first term. That was $2.5 trillion then of tax cuts. Many of these tax cuts expire this year, and both corporations and billionaires are clamoring for their bonanza to be made permanent. Most of it were made permanent for everybody except for the bottom 10%. The House bill is a further demonstration of the utter indifference to legal and constitutional constraints on the part of the Trump White House and the Republican Party as a whole. A reconciliation bill is required to be deficit neutral. They don't care. The requirement is met by assuming that extension of the tax cuts, combined with the scrapping of business regulations, will unleash massive economic growth that'll raise tax revenues by $2.6 trillion. And when that fails to materialize, the resulting deficit blowout will prompt demands for even more cuts in social spending. Well, we're still underwater. We can't spend more money than we don't have. Amid nonstop lying by Trump and his aides, who claim that there will be no benefit cuts in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the House bill instructs the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, Medicare, and other health programs, to cut at least $880 billion in spending over a 10-year period. So tell me how that's not cuts to those. An analysis of the underlying budget figures by the New York Times, who I don't believe, but okay, pointed out that all government programs under the jurisdiction of this entire committee, beyond Medicaid and Medicare, only accounts for $200 billion combined. They're being tasked with cutting $880 billion over 10 years. That's $88 billion a year. So everything except for Medicare and Medicaid is $200. This means that the vast bulk of cuts must come out of healthcare programs, large of which, guess what? Terms of people served is Medicaid. which provides health care coverage to the poorest sections of the working class, as well as disability payments and nursing home care for millions of elderly people. All told, the joint state and federal program provides benefits for 72 million people, Americans, more than 20% of the U.S. population. 1 in 5 Americans is on Medicaid. Not Medicare, correct. Medicaid. Among the measures being considered to implement the cuts are imposing work requirements, allowing more frequently eligibility checks on beneficiaries, likely to disqualify millions of eligible recipients because they fail to meet paperwork requirements, and capping the federal contribution to the program while leaving the actual benefit cuts to be made by the states, which administer the joint program. They're going to let states do the cutting because they lost the money from the federal and they need to cut somewhere else to make up for that, or they've got to cut that program. And here's the big rub. The single biggest cut would involve effectively rescinding a major portion of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, by cutting off the subsidies to the 41 states that have expanded Medicaid coverage to 20 million Americans with incomes slightly above the poverty line. Go ahead. You got your finger on the button. I don't hear it. These...
I don't hear it.
No Obama. Thank you. These states, now I heard it, would either have to eliminate the Medicaid expansion, cutting off health insurance, or make offsetting cuts in other state programs, such as public education. How about that? Times estimated that this would save the federal government as much as $560 billion. So you add that $88
Meanwhile, what
billion,
they don't tell you,
go ahead,
is that they plan on making, using AI as part of the Department of Education and whatnot. So that's going to go well.
Right? Another major social regression would be carried out by the White House Agriculture Committee, which has jurisdiction over the food stamp program. This committee is instructed to cut $230 billion over the next 10 years, and there's little likelihood that this will come out of support payments for giant agribusiness interests. House Republican leaders issued a statement celebrating their action as delivering on the president's full agenda, America first, not just parts of it. After which, Trump held his first full cabinet meeting Wednesday at the White House. And then we know that Trump gave the spotlight to billionaire douchebag Elmo Muskrat, whom he has designated as his chief budget cutter. All right. He asked the assembled cabinet members to give their assessment of Musk's efforts, and they responded with predictable ovation, just an ass-kissing session all around. Trump gave his backing to Musk's provocative email messages to the entire federal workforce, demanding that every worker provide a 5-point summary of their job accomplishments from last week or be fired. It's very much in line, Glenn Ross. It's, first prize is a Cadillac, second prize is a set of steak knives, third prize is you're fired.
Get the fuck out.
1 million workers, or nearly half the workforce, have not responded.
They're redoing that, I hear.
Yeah, they are. It's on Broadway. Starring Bill Burr as one of the characters, too. Correct. I may try to get over there.
Billy Burr.
1 million workers, or nearly half the federal workforce, have not responded to Musk's messages, and Trump said that all of them should be considered at risk. They're going to fire 1 million people. Also on Wednesday, Trump issued an executive order requiring every federal agency and department to develop plans for mass layoffs, called RIFs, by March 13th. This would extend the jobs bloodbath beyond the probationary and temporary employees who've already been laid off en masse, and include more senior workers who have civil service protection and supposedly can't be fired arbitrarily. Trump mentioned the order at the cabinet meeting, praising Lee Zeldin, head of the EPA, for preparing plans to eliminate 65% of the EPA's workforce. Of course, not his job, but the rest of the workforce. The March 13th deadline is significant because on March 14th, the current continuing resolution, which authorizes spending by federal agencies, is set to expire. So if we don't get another CR, guess what we get? A government shutdown. The CR was adopted in December.
And they'll blame it on the Dems.
Yep.
Somehow.
Even though the Democrats can't vote here.
Right.
The CR was adopted in December after Congress failed to pass a budget for the current fiscal year, which began October 1st, 2024. Unless a budget is adopted or a new CR is passed, a partial shutdown of the federal government would begin March 14th. This could well be the occasion for the layoff of hundreds of thousands of workers, not just as a temporary measure, as during previous shutdowns, but permanently. Even these workers, ultimately called back to their jobs, would likely lose pay for the period of the furlough, meaning countless evictions, foreclosures, and other hardships. They may not be able to come take that job again when it's reopened. In the face of these impending calamities, the Democratic Party and the trade unions that supposedly represent these workers are engaged in nothing more than impotent hand-wringing. House Democrats leader Hakeem Jeffries, while acknowledging that the budget bill would mean the largest Medicaid cut in American history, proposed for precisely no action to stop it. His position remains, as long as it has been since Trump took office with his tiny majorities in the House and Senate, what leverage do we have? God forbid he went and tried to make a deal with a Republican to flip sides. It goes without saying that when the positions are reversed, Republican minorities have engaged in full-scale war against Democratic administrations and blocked their proposed actions. But that only demonstrates the difference between the two parties of corporate America, one pretending to defend working people and the other brazenly doing the bidding of the super rich. In this case, with the richest man in the world, quote unquote, wielding the chainsaw, except that his name's not Rothschild, so not really.
And the chainsaw has no chain, therefore it does nothing.
Very, very apropos because of what happened in Argentina with Milei.
Right?
The struggle against Trump's massive social cuts, as his attacks on immigrant workers and democratic rights, and his full program of dictatorship and war, will only come from the working class, which must establish its political independence from the Democratic Party and its subservient trade union vassals, and come forward in an open social and political struggle against the Trump administration. And they suggest the Socialist Equality Party, which they are part of and founded, by the way, the SEP. The only problem with the Trots is that they're COVIDians, but they totally want to revamp the healthcare system, and they truly believe in healthcare for all, preventative healthcare, and the like. Although they do believe in vaccines, which I'm not crazy about, but they also don't believe in capitalist big pharma. So I am kind of more leaning towards that, although that's government-run pharmaceutical companies, which I don't know how crazy I am about that either. But it's interesting. It's worth thinking about or talking about. I like these guys sometimes, and on matters of calling out fascism for fascism, because everybody to their right is a fascist. They're good at that, as well as occasionally on press freedom. I like what they have to say, and I like to use them, especially in calling out union leadership and Democrats. They're outstanding at doing that.
Have a good time with your Bitcoin.
No, please do not pay us in Bitcoin. Please do not pay us in anything other than fiat USD cash if you are able to.
And everything else that you're playing with.
Shut up, you clown. All right. So there's our wall of fame. We love these people. All right. The way to get us actual cash like Colin just did is ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. We have Cash App, $ Indie News Network, PayPal.me/Indie News Network as well. And then, of course, we have our INNnewsletter.com, which I'd love for you to subscribe to. But you know what? Don't pay there. Go to Ko-fi, because INN Newsletter, let me tell you, Substack takes 10%, and then Stripe takes another 2.5%. So we're only getting, again, let's try to keep as much. You want to support the streamers? Those platforms have got hundreds of millions of dollars in VC money that are supporting them. We got you for supporting us to hold them accountable. We do not accept Bitcoin. We do not accept crypto. I don't want crypto. Fuck your crypto. I love you if you want crypto, but we're not interested. I know that it's a scam. But these people gave us in actual cash to one of those places, Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, or INNnewsletter.com by subscribing on a monthly or annual basis. We are definitely demonetized, deboosted in the algorithm, and in Rockfin's case, soon to be deplatformed, likely. So support us there where you can. Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal.
Asking for your financial support.
We have to get some new people because I don't want to hear that asshole's voice ever again. All right, and certainly not asking anyone for money because I still want my $20.
Keep doing it.
I want my $27 back.
Keep doing it.
Fuck
just
that.
to upset you.
Cash App, $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. Sign up at INN Newsletter.
Break here.
No, sign up at INNnewsletter.com, but don't pay any money over there because Substack doesn't deserve the money. They've been really douchey and throwing all their efforts into corporate media hacks like Jim Acosta and Jennifer Rubin. And I saw Joyanne Reed, by the way, this week.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Yep. She's there too now. It's just a matter of time before we get Rachel over there too. Hempcar, good to see you. I stayed home and went to the local college, no loans. By the way, Hempcar is one of those fam that I thankfully found, reconnected with on Facebook. He was watching us exclusively on Rockfin. It's like, you guys disappeared. I don't know what happened. Then I explained what happened, and he's like, oh shit, well, I'll come over on Rumble. But again, don't Rumble rant, because Rumble rant, they take 50%, and then we have to pay PayPal. If you're going to subscribe at Rumble, do it with a monthly subscription there. The channel subscriptions, they claim to pay us 100%. And then we got to pay PayPal a little rip, but okay.
Thing sucks.
Yeah. I mean, just getting paid out, and it's such a hassle that the people watching don't really know anything about having to deal, what we have to deal with that. And once they find out, they feel bad, and they'll alter, hopefully, how they support their content creators so that it puts the most money in their pocket.
People's brains would explode if they realized like everything you got to pay for, all the software you got to do, all the monthly subscriptions you have to have just to use the software, all the like, it's just to get it out to the places where people can see it,
Shout out and love to our brother Oz. Okay.
Correct. What up, Oz?
Stay away from my chickens, Oz.
Stay away from my chickens, Oz. And definitely eggs, too.
Yeah.
Stay away from my eggs. You can help us out by contributing over at Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, or even at Substack, although try to do it one of the first three. Cash App if you have $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. Yeah, support independent media because we need it more than ever, and I love you all.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye!
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, why play civil when all these dead won't make you listen? What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.